Hi everyone, welcome to this video. This is Luv Johar, a very important video for all the people who are watching this. And I say it all the time, but this time I am pretty much very serious in terms of this video content. Why? Because we have not created any video so far at this detailed level of job discussion and at this much depth in entire series that we have covered so far that we will be doing today. So please, all those people, if you are at fresher level, if you are at a manager level in information security, in cyber security domain, please ensure that you watch out this video with the utmost seriousness and try to gain as much value as you can from this video. So I have subject matter expert with me. Akshay Dixit is there. He's founder of a company called Arzen Technologies. Akshay, over to you.
Hi, Love. Thanks for having me. First of all, a good topic in store for folks for today. So the idea is that we have constantly been bombarded with questions regarding queries, not questions, queries regarding job interviews, and as people have been interviewing for different roles. So generally, what I observed was there's a lot of confusion in people's mind regarding uh, what are the different types of jobs that are out there. Questions like what role should I apply for? Every JD is different. Somebody is saying something in the JD, they're asking me something else. uh, I was prepared for something, but then I got confused. I wasn't able to portray it. So just a general sense of what is out there is not known. Then there is a topic of specific interview questions. Some types of questions are asked for some types of profiles. So what I wanted to do through this video is to give people a general sense of what is expected from you in a job interview, what kind of questions you might be facing. Obviously that's a pertinent question and a very valid question, but even before that you have to understand cyber security industry from the sense of what types of roles are out there when you are which you are applying for, and what to expect in different types of roles, which roles to apply for, and what types of questions will you be expecting from the interviewer or during the interview process when you're applying for that role. So this is pretty much the layout here, and the opinions and views that are being expressed here are based on what I have experienced as a recruiter, what I have experienced as the people that engage in our training that we help get placed in organizations, their feedbacks, my colleagues that are out there, whoever are at higher places in different parts of the cybersecurity industry. Over time, whatever discussions I've had with them, whatever trends I have been observing since the past years, and how the landscape of expectations from job seekers has changed. So I'm just trying to portray it from my sense. Views may differ for different people. I just try to give whatever knowledge I have or whatever understanding I have as much as possible. Yeah. So I would like to begin on a note where we have to understand that let's try to break profiles into some levels. So there is, and I'm using very general terminology. Let's not call it an industry terminology. It does get used in some specific roles, somewhere not. But let's break it down in level. So there is something called as a level 1 or a level 0, which is the role of a fresher, which is a role of a person who is starting. And when I say fresher, it might not necessarily be a freshly graduated person. It might be a person who is joining the information security domain in an organization from the beginning, from the bottom. From the bottom, at the bottommost, the analyst level, the executive level, they have different job roles and job titles. Information security executive, trainee, information security analyst, information security junior consultant, whatever they might have, depends from organization to organization. That is the level 1. Then we move on to the level 2 and level 3, which are people who have had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of experience, 7 years of experience, fall under level 2 and level 3. Then post that we move into more of an information security, a cyber security manager role. After a couple of years as managers, you move on to a senior manager role, and from senior manager you may then become there may be some positions in between deputy manager, chief manager, above senior manager, in some organization they have chief managers. Then there is the role of the CISO, which is like the highest in hierarchy of a cyber security team or an information security team. So this is like a general breakup. Also, to understand, Love, is that there are two forms of organizations that you may be applying for. One type of organization is the one who requires information security team to work on in-house operations, team that will help secure my infrastructure, my assets, my network, my processes, and is going to become part of my information security team, helping in my own security to my organization. This is an in-house job. Second types of job roles are when information, either I employ somebody to provide security to my clients. So I am providing a service. Along with that service, I want to provide security, maybe not as a service, but as a part of the service that I'm offering. And I need specialists to handle the security aspect of it. So here the client comes in. The third type is purely information security consulting company, much like myself. We do cyber security consulting, assessments, audits, compliance, implementations, forensics, incident response for small scale, large scale, and medium scale industries. So I would want to hire somebody just for the role of a specific type of a role or a specific type of a skill set to provide information security services to organizations out there, because organizations do take professional helps. They could call you an information security vendor, they could call you information security partner, they could call you an information security solution provider, whatever it is. The third aspect is just the solution fourth is just the solution implementation companies who have products, who are either reselling somebody's product or have product in themselves, and either they want to increase the security of the product, or they want to provide you as a part of a subject matter expert or a solutioning expert on those specific types of solutions. Solutions might be firewall, solutions might be anti-APT, solutions might be DLP, so on and so forth. So these are different types, and in every single type of organization you will have these levels. In consulting, typically you would have an analyst for like company like mine, or when you're providing services. Let's break it down. I'm digressing. Let's first talk about the organization which is trying to take people in-house. For example, I'm a banking, I'm a healthcare company, I'm a hospital, I'm a pharmaceutical company, and I want to have somebody who will ensure or implement security or maintain security in my company for my company. Nobody else. The idea is just for that protection, right? Now, let's talk about the levels. The level one is, so the good thing or a good news for everybody who's at level one or level zero for that matter is that the basic expectation of every L1 person or L0 person is the same throughout the industry. The same base knowledge is expected. Now, they might utilize you for something very specific, but they will expect you, the more knowledge you have. So the approach is important, Love, here is that I may have a smaller security requirement and I may ask lesser questions from a fresher. Not as Anzen, but as, let's say, ABC company, I have a very small requirement. But as Anzen, I want my consultant to be the best. So I would want the fresher or the new starter to have the maximum number of knowledge. So the expectation might be different, but the whole package of knowledge that is required is important. So you might ask me, Akshay, what is expected? Experience is not expected from a fresher. Only knowledge is expected, and ability to learn faster, to think creatively, and adapt faster. These three things are important. Very first thing, if you don't have knowledge, there is no point in even moving forward. You need to have the knowledge as much as possible of the basic concepts. I'm going to discuss the topics that are usually asked and required very soon. But before that, because people get confused with the GDs. I've had people who are asking me that, I did a ethical hacking course and they started asking me about web application. So there lies the difference. You have to understand what they are expecting from you. They are not expecting you to be subject matter experts. They are not expecting you to have an experience, but they will expect you to be able to think creatively, to be able to answer the basic topics. And when I say basic, the definition of basic has also changed over time now. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, that what basic was 10 years ago is not basic anymore, or even what basic was 3-4 years ago, it's not basic anymore, right? So that's there. So knowledge is important, ability to think and kind of come up with some idea or a solution to a problem. They are not expecting you to have the right answer, but they are expecting, they are going to test whether in a pressured scenario, or whether if given a situation, how well are you able to analyze or understand it. That's what I do as a recruiter, right? So this
A
is
follow-up
what.
question. Yeah,
Yes.
Akshay, a follow-up question on this particular theme. Uh, all the freshers who are watching this video, what are the top couple of things, if you can just give them a pointer in terms of what are the couple of core things that they should prepare before going to an interview, so that, as you said, that this is an area, a platform where the basic skills are almost similar at all the companies, right? So what
Yes.
should a fresher look out for now?
Okay, so good understanding of technology is very important. So when I speak about technology, you should have a strong hold on network technologies, protocol services. That is to say, you should understand how a router works, how a switch works, VPN, DNS, ARP, all these major protocol services you should know about. You should have an understanding and knowledge about what are the common ports that are out there. You should have an understanding of the ISO OSI model. You should be able to understand common protocols like ping, telnet, traceroute, whois, all these commands you should know about. You should know what is CIA, what is confidentiality, integrity, availability. You should know what types of attacks hackers are out there, gray hat, white hat, all these definitions. And so like from a very basic sense, you should understand what types of attacks are possible. You should know, you should understand the concept of firewall, IDS, IPS, honeypot, cyber security attacks like DOS, DDoS, SQL injection, XSS, phishing, malware. You should be able to explain these with examples. Now, the key over here is not just a definition. You should have you should have a understanding of this. You should have not just from a attack point of view, also always try to relate it with a mitigation. When somebody asks you what a SQL injection is, you should be able to explain SQL injection, but at the end, the cherry on the top, even if they don't ask you, you should explain this is how you mitigate it. So then they know that you're not just a person who is learning, trying to mug up the concepts to just blurt it out in front of the interviewer. You have an understanding and you're able to explain till the end, because ultimately we are security folks, right? Your profile might differ. You might purely get into a vulnerability assessment part, but even from a vulnerability assessment guy, when he does an assessment, the team will ask, how do I fix it? And you should be able to answer it, right? So then we move on. You should understand the process of a VA, of a PT. You should know what port scanning is. You should know what sniffing is. You should have an understanding of how a server works. What are the different models, client, server, middleware. You should know these concepts, because these are basic concepts. At a college level, we get to know this. We don't pay attention or focus to this, but these are important. You should understand what web servers are. You should understand what web server security means. I have not touched the application attacks yet. You should know the OWASP top 10, right? So all of these things, what is OWASP top 10? Essentially the types of attacks on web applications, right? So common web attacks and prevention you should know about. Cryptography is kind of very, it's a, for interviewers, it's something they want to ask about. So in most of the interviews for at a fresher level, they'll ask you about cryptography. They'll ask you about what is symmetric versus asymmetric, what is hashing, what is salting, what is weak cipher versus strong cipher. Explain me SSL handshake, explain me TLS handshake, blah blah, so on and so forth. Not a lot of academic knowledge is required over here, but an understanding and to be able to explain with examples. Again, I'm saying examples are the key. You give a definition, you give an explanation. Don't try to stretch it for too long. Try to explain it. If you are on a face-to-face, try to see if you can get on a whiteboard. If you have a piece of paper, if you can explain it, it's okay. however you can. It depends on the mode of the interview that's happening. Try to explain as much as possible with as many examples as possible. So this is one.
Staying on, yeah, staying on the same foundation level, Akshay, let's say a person who did not initially wanted to pursue his career in cyber security, but after 6 months or after 1 year into the technical domain, now into the technology function, now gradually that person realizes that I actually want to build up my career now on this front. So but now there is a gap now because he is not no more in the college, he does not knows all the concept from the basics. So is there something that can help that person in order to jumpstart that particular role? Is there something that you can help him with?
So I mean, love, like we said, I mean, there are two ways of doing it. There's always the mode of self-study. It depends on the how much time do you have. If you're doing it at the side of your job, then you could study at nights. You can put in the extra hours. It's all about putting the hours, man. And if like immediately switching to cybersecurity or something that's kind of a need of yours, and if you have like you have to spare some time. See, love, you have to understand that it's okay. There are always ways to crack something, but everything that is good requires dedication, requires time, requires efforts. So then you could go in for you could try studying all of these topics like I mentioned on your own. You could try coming up scenarios. There are blogs everywhere. If there is something specific you want, you might want to go for a professional course, maybe like CIRP. We've been talking about, love. CIRP covers all the basics of information security, takes you to network security, VAPT concepts, teaches you how to do a VAPT in real scenarios. It talks about configuration audit, hardening of servers. So it teaches you about all of that. Goes on to SOC profile, how to become a SOC professional. So that is like a jumbo power pack course, which is preparing you for so many other roles and kind of gives you an edge over just a starting fresher, and kind of maybe steer directly into a L1 or L2 role, or at least have a great start at a fresher level. I mean, not to end up in a job where I'm just doing scanning and I'm not getting the value out of it. And then people get into cybersecurity and then they feel I'm not learning anything. And there are a lot of freshers after 1 year I see are dissatisfied by the type of job they had because of the expectation and their level, their knowledge. That was the only job that they could crack, and they were kind of fit into that role based on their knowledge. If you have more knowledge, if you have more skill, you will always get a better job that is out there. But there's a huge competition for that good job, for that good salary, right? And you have to prove yourself. I mean, when I take somebody, I tell you that in my organization, the freshers at the very beginning level, they are directly involved in projects. They're doing forensics, they're doing incident response, so they learn so much. But then I interview people, and I take people very selectively, very specifically, because I am expecting a lot from the person who joins my organization, even if he joins as a fresher. So the expectation.
Fresher is actually doing malware analysis in your organization.
Yes, very
Oh
much
my
so,
God.
very much so. And yeah, that's the kind of projects we have. So we involve everybody, and we make sure that we hire the right person, not in the sense that he does everything on his own, but he has to has the combination of that right mindset. What I just said, love, I follow it. That is why I said it. It's not something I'm taking off of some blog and explaining you right now. It's something which I practice, which I expect. So the second part of a fresher interview is where I give some scenarios. So I'll say, let's say there is a DOS in progress and there is a web server and there's a firewall. What are you going to do? And I'm not expecting him to know anything at that level, but let him come up with some idea. Let him think of something. I am looking for a couple of keywords here and there, and if he touches that, then that impresses me. Okay, now this guy is thinking. I can
Akshay,
train this guy.
let us do it right away. Let us take that scenario, and I want all the freshers to get some real value out of this. So throw a scenario and then explain how should a fresher think and approach this.
Okay, so a common example could be that let's say there is you have a web server on a DMZ, and there is an attack in progress. There is a web application attack in progress. So now, how are you going to defend against this, and what are you going to do? So this is a very open-ended question. You have to understand that there is no right way. There is no specific thing over here. And what usually I'm expecting from an answer is that, I will try to see what type of attack is there, whether it's a, so this question in itself will test their knowledge of XSS, SQL injection, the common types of attacks that are out there. This will test their knowledge of a web server. How will they analyze? So the keyword I'm looking for is, I will check the web server logs. I will check for error responses. If I'm getting a lot of 404, that means there might be a DOS in progress. So I'm not saying you have to answer that specifically, but if you reach there, if you give me that log thing, I'll analyze.
Great.
Is there, if they ask further questions that, sir, is there a firewall in place? Okay. Now I'm happy. Now I'm more interested in this guy. So I'll improve the scenario for him. I'll give him, okay, let's say there is a WAF in place. So now the person says that I'll analyze the WAF. So I'm saying my follow-up question, if I'm interested in this guy now, my follow-up question will be, let's say there is a firewall. What are you looking for in that firewall specific to web attacks? Now, if he knows SQL injection, he will tell me SQL queries. I will look for select, star keyword. I will look for script keyword. So I'll analyze the traffic. I'll deploy some sniffer. Doesn't matter. He doesn't have to be entirely correct. It doesn't have to be entirely practical. But I'm looking at this guy's sense of thinking and how creatively he's thinking. Because as consultants, our clients get a lot of problems and solutions, and incidents keep happening. So I need people who can come up with creative solutions, who can think on their brain, because we keep doing it. We might get a call in the night where my client tells me that, Akshay, there's an attack in progress, you have to immediately come in. So who am I going to select to be part of that team? A guy who can think on his feet, who can come up with ideas proactively, and has a very good foothold on the basic knowledge.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, at 12 in midnight, you get that team just on the fly, and they are running on, mitigating that attack.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, because proactive security, because we are consultants, we have to give that level of service to our clients. We have to give that level of assurance to our clients, and we take, and the people who join us know, and they join us for the same thing.
Great.
Because of the thrill of the job, because of the experience.
Exactly. I'm getting excited listening to it. Yeah, I can completely imagine. Yeah.
So those types of things, like, so one typical example would be, okay, let's say I'll give scenario based on an attacker. Let's say you're an attacker and you have to make a phishing page against my organization. How are you going to do it? He will give me an answer. What I'm looking for is, how are you actually going to host it? How are you going to send it to me? What if it goes in spam? How are you again going to target me? Then I give him role reversal. I'll tell him, okay, now let's say there's a phishing attack in progress. How are you going to save it? How are you going to identify it? How are you going to communicate it? What is the first step over here? How will you be able to safely analyze it? I'll tell you why now. Because with the type of answers I get, I will be able to know whether he's fit for incident response, whether he's fit on application security, whether his knack is more towards server security, just to get a sense. I'm not saying immediately we put people on some things, but over time we observe these people, over time we see how they're performing, but we get a sense of where their mind is working more. See, everybody's mind works differently. Somebody might think more in terms of risk. Somebody might think more in terms of attack. Somebody might think more in terms of defense. It is our job to bring out the best in them.
Filter it out.
And put them in those specific roles.
Right. Absolutely. Akshay, we have brother now. Avir is there. Avir is a great brother. He is there in almost all the live streams. Thank you so much, Avir, for being a part of the community and joining all the live streams. Really appreciate you, brother. So he's asking a question. He's saying, I belong to network security where I'm managing the network and firewalls. What are the best footprint to follow the career in InfoSec for me? So he's asking from network security, what are the paths ahead of him? Akshay, where can he go from here?
Avir, man, you're at a very good point. It's like when you say you're on network. Sadly, we differentiate between network security and a lot of industries and a lot of organizations, and I believe Avir must be managing in-house. That is because that is where these segregations happen more. So Avir, you're halfway there. What you need to do is you need to understand. Now you move in, when you say into InfoSec, you want to maybe move into the technical aspect of it, and if you're wanting to move into technical aspect of it, learn more about server security, server hardening, learn more about firewall rule review, learn more about network architecture security. Just because you are part of it, you already have access to the architecture, you already have friends over there. So understand these concepts. get into an analyst phase, wherein if I am now maintaining a firewall, see, you are the person who configured the rule, so you will be the best guy to do a firewall rule review. Understand this. And most of the great firewall rule review people or the vulnerability assessment guys are the ones who started their career with first managing it, because now you understand this at a technical level. So get your concepts correct, nail down vulnerability assessment, penetration testing. At your level, you might need more of a practical standpoint because you're already at a certain level. So I don't know how you're going to manage the practical aspect. That is something you'll have to see whether you want to see it in practice. If it's going on in your organization, try to get your hands dirty, set up your home labs. It's all available, scanning tools are there. Try to practice this. If you're facing any challenges, if you want some guidance at a training level, do get in touch with my team. The links are always there. Drop an email if there is some specific area in which you want an expertise. So you might see why I'm not saying this is because you might want to just get into the network VAPT aspect of it. That's also a great profile. You might want to say, no, I want to get into web application as well, but that's completely new to me. So it just depends. The topics that I mentioned, just rewind back when you're looking at the video. These are the major topics that you need to understand at a basic level. At your level, you might want to get more hands-on in vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, application security assessments, configuration audits, and hardening. So at your level, a little more expertise is required, and then that should do it. I don't see any challenge.
Great. Thanks, Akshay.
Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, so you were asking about scenario-based questions, right? So scenarios would be like how. So a great. So I don't think I've said this before, and even folks in my team don't know it. When I took my first cyber security interview, I was asked this question to explain defense in depth. That was a question I was asked, and I got sweaty because I was, right out of college, the first job I took was in an information security company, and it was not easy to explain. I understood what defense in depth is, but not to that great level. So I had to improvise and kind of give my understanding of what defense in depth is, and I kind of said whatever I knew. At that answer, I remember talking continuously for 10-15 minutes probably, or maybe it was lesser. That's how I remember it because it's been a while now. But I was asked this question, and I was said that explain defense in depth to me with an example. And I quite don't remember what all I said right now, but I just remember the interviewer telling me that Akshay, you nailed it. So I just remember I remember talking a lot.
Yeah, because I can relate it with the enthusiasm that you must have showed him, Akshay.
Yeah. So
great.
That's kind of the thing that is expected. So at a fresher level, there are a lot of topics. It's more to say that it's have a general sense and don't. And this is just my opinion, right? This is just my opinion that let's not say that this is ethical hacking as a topic or ethical hacking as a concept. Or let's just say that we need to understand hacking. We need to be able to conduct an assessment based on a hacker's frame of mind. That is what we call an ethical hacker, right? So nobody is expecting you to actually hack into some system. It's more from a protection standpoint that cyber security jobs are out there. If you're into the red teaming aspect of it, like if you get into vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, yes, that does evolve into those scenarios. But first, understand the concept. People are so much focused, Luv, on just jumping on to how to do it. They will follow a blog, they will get a success, and they will feel they have done something. Don't take that approach.
Yeah, knowledge is important.
The time when these things used to impress us has gone. 7 years ago, 5 years ago, if you would have shown me that, I'm bypassing the Windows login screen, it would have impressed me. That's not impressive anymore. We have evolved in terms of concepts. We have evolved in terms of expectations that we have, right? So in that sense, yeah.
Great.
I
I
saw that
have,
there was some question.
yeah, Shivkant brother is there. Shivkant, a huge shout out to Shivkant first of all. Thank you, Shivkant, for being a part of the game and watching the live stream every day. So Shivkant has a question, just jumping a little bit off the tangent in terms of how to prevent a DDoS attack. He wants to know just a couple of pointers here, Akshay.
Okay, so first of all, Shivkan, we have to be able to answer this question, we need to understand what type of DDoS are we facing. I mean, is it? I'll answer your question. Don't worry about it, and you don't have to give me a specific answer. But let's say it's a. Are we saying that it's a volumetric DDoS? Are we saying it's an application-based DDoS? Are we saying a specific server is being targeted? Are we saying what is the target asset that is also depends? Because this question is very vast, right? How to prevent a DDoS attack? There is no one way to protect it. But yes, because this is a question you've answered and it's a good question and it is asked in interviews. So I will tell you. So one way of doing it is a very basic way of doing it is as soon as are you preemptively preparing yourself for a DDoS attack, or are you preventing a DDoS attack in action? There's a difference here, because when you're preemptively preparing yourself for a DDoS attack, you're putting in checks and balances to ensure a DDoS attack does not happen. But let's say there is a DDoS attack in place, or even if you're preemptively protecting yourself, you have to first identify what type of DDoS attack have you faced, or what type of DDoS attack are you preparing yourself for. So first thing from a senior perspective is to have a run book or a playbook or a response plan that is very specific to a DDoS. That is one. Second is to have take DDoS protection from the ISP. You have to block that IP, you have to block that traffic at ISP level. So at an organization level, you need to have a contact with the data center provider or the ISP to be able to prevent such an attack. They should have that capability at their level. You should be able to quickly blacklist or a kind of whitelist the type of, not a blacklist, more from a whitelisting perspective. You should be able to safeguard your network infrastructure, right? So what protocols are they trying to attack? Are they trying to attack the web application? So all of that, you should have a backup strategy in place. Should the service go down, you should have a backup strategy in place. How are your BCP and your DR your DR and BCP strategy plays an important role in such a thing, right? Then basic practices like load balancing, like diverting traffics, having honeypots, honey nets, all of these concepts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say for all the freshers who don't know, what is a DDoS in basic terms? What is a DDoS attack?
So
how it happens and what is it? Yeah.
DDoS comes in from the concept of denial of service, which is to say, if I have an asset and if the type of attack that renders the renders the services that this asset is providing unusable, then it's a DOS attack. So denial of service. There is an application, there is a server, there are legitimate clients that are trying to access this server. And when somebody is trying to, if I do so many probes, or I engage this server into responding to malicious attacks, that the legitimate clients are not able to access its services, it is called a DOS. Now, if this DOS is done from one machine, one attack machine to one target, it's called as a DOS. If it is done by various machines targeted at one place, it's called as a distributed denial of service or a DDoS.
Got it. Okay. Great, Akshay. We can carry on forward from the fresher level to a little bit more higher level now.
So now we discussed about the L0 and the L1 level. Let's talk about the L2 and the L3 level. I'm just categorizing them into one. And stop me anywhere, Love, because this is just my chain of thought and whatever I've gathered over a period of time.
Till the time, Akshay, you start, I can see 10 people on the live stream at the moment watching, which is a great thing by itself. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot in between like Aveer did. In terms of your current career challenges, in terms of your job challenges, feel free to share with us, okay? So that Akshay can answer them. Go ahead, Akshay.
Yeah. So at an L2 and L3 level, what you're basically doing is you are somewhere between the profile of a fresher and a manager. You are people who are actually on grounds operating. You have more knowledge, you have more skilled, you have more experience, and you are now getting involved deeper and deeper into different types of projects. So this is what an L2 or an L3 profile will look like. Now within an organization, what you're expected to do typically is take the same thing that you were doing at an L1 level, but put more intelligence and more depth to it. For example, at an L1 level, you might just be doing vulnerability assessments or vulnerability scannings. At an L2 level, you will get into penetration testing, doing vulnerability assessment for critical assets. You might combine the web application. So there might be two L1s, one doing web and one doing network. And at an L2 level, there might be one L2 or one L3 who has knowledge and skill of both. So at an L2 and L3 level, what is expected from you is knowledge, no doubt, more in-depth knowledge than an L1 person, because now you've spent some time, at least 1 or 2 years you've spent in the industry. At least 2 years is expected from you. So when you've spent 2 years, what is expected is that you have gained you have already a knowledge, and in some specific areas of cybersecurity is where you are now good at. I'm not saying you're an expert, but you're good at it. So knowledge is required. Experience is key over here. Ability to adapt quickly and ability to solve specific problems. So when somebody is interviewing you for an L2 or an L3 level role, what they're essentially going to ask you is, tell me what you did in your previous company. Tell me an example of this. If you're good at penetration testing, if such type of an attack comes, how are you going to create a POC for it? Tell me what your attack setup, typical setup would look like. Have you implemented from a solutioning perspective? If you've done some solutioning, how do you implement this? How do you configure these specific rules? Give me 2 use cases, 3 use cases, 4 use cases of this implementation. Whether you're in a SOC, whether you're in a VA, whether you're in a PT, whether you are in a process role as well. If you're into audits, let's not leave audit over there, right? Have you been part of audit? So as an audit, what was your role? And based on your role, they will ask you a question. So you need to have an understanding of how it works, and you need to be able to justify what you've already done.
Akshay, can we take a couple of questions just for the sake of people who are watching, so that they understand from after fresher level what kind of questions get asked? Only a couple of them, not more.
Okay. So give me like a stream.
You can take anything. You can take on audit perspective.
Okay.
Where somebody is actually auditing something. Yeah.
Okay. So from
because I think auditing will come at senior level only. Freshers will not do it so often.
Yeah. So freshers, Love, would be part of the audit team, but fresher, not at a fresher, but L2, L3. So L2, L3 level of auditing is typically in practice. How it happens is you are given a set of it's driven. The internal audits are driven by compliance standards. So in an organization, because we are specifically talking about in-house, whether you're a small scale, medium scale, or a large scale, you will be driven by some compliance standard. So either you will be doing an ISO based audit, or you will be doing a PCI based audit, or you'll be doing a GDPR based audit, or you will be doing internal audits as part of the security program.
Right.
All these programs have been laid down by the senior manager and the CISO. And so what you are doing is essentially you are specifically auditing based on some standard.
Working on those verticals particularly.
Yes.
Right.
So not to say that an L2, L3 person will come and do an entire audit by himself. He will be a part of the audit team.
Yeah.
Just to say that, what is the scope. So the scope, if scope is larger, there will be 2-3 people where work will be divided. If the scope is smaller, you might be just one person who's doing an audit. So now, and the roles bifurcate, Love. At L2 and L3 level, the roles bifurcate. Sometimes the roles reverse, and sometimes it's one person doing both roles. The first is the implementation aspect of this compliance, and the second is the audit aspect of it.
Right.
Typically, a maker and a checker are kept different, so that there, you reduce the chances of errors.
Yeah.
But sometimes in low budgets or in smaller organizations, they don't have the capacity or the budget approvals to have so many people. So a single
Yeah.
person might be doing the implementation as well as the audit aspect.
But then it comes to a point of conflict of interest also, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but then again, you know, it's not us who are taking those
Yeah,
decisions,
absolutely. Small
and
organizations, yeah, yeah,
how it's having practically in the real world is what I'm here to
true,
tell you.
true.
So
Akshay,
what? Yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I have a lot of questions showing up here. So in between, I think we should also answer them. So new person has showed up now. His name is Anup Ache, and Anup is asking, what are the best practices in IPS log monitoring, please? So I do not want you to relay all the best practices here, but just a couple of them, if it can help Anup in terms of
Okay.
IPS log monitoring.
So
And first of
I
all, for people who are watching, what is IPS log monitoring? Because most of the people might not know this term.
Okay, so I think what he's asking is that there is an IPS intrusion prevention system already in place, and IPS is generating a lot of logs. And
Yes.
what are how do you do log monitoring inside an IPS app? Anoop, am I correct in asking this, in understanding your question?
Yeah, I
Are you
think you are
talking
right,
about from
Akshay.
a
Yeah.
solutioning perspective? Are you asking from a, I mean, what is the intent if I get it?
Yeah.
I might be able to answer this in a better fashion.
Okay. Okay, Akshay. By the time he answers, we have Prakash Thakur. He's again one of the returning members of the game. He's always there in most of the sessions. Thank you, Prakash, for being there. So now Prakash is asking, can a load balancer actually help in prevent the DDoS attack?
So it's not to say that the load balancer is the the definitive solution
Mitigation
to
step.
it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it is part. Load balancer does help in. I mean, by definition in itself, it diverts the traffic so that no one channel gets choked
Yes.
so much that all the resources and things are preventive. So yes, load balancer does
Right.
play a role.
Right.
It does
Thank
not
you for.
prevent in itself, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Prakash. Hope you get your answer. Shivkant is there. Shivkant is saying, thank you so much, Akshay. He's got all the explanations. So he's sending good vibes. Thank you, Shivkant. Aveer has returned. Aveer is saying, in hardening, I am following some blogs and vendors' website to block unwanted services and least privilege access on my network devices. Can you please suggest some best practices here?
Go to watch our hardening videos, Aveer.
Yeah.
Love and I have created 2 hardening videos. I think 2 or 3, couple of them,
Three.
and we
Yeah,
have,
three.
yes, 3, and watch them. And we have also talked about the specific the couple of resources that's more than good enough for you to follow in terms of best practices. If you watch it properly, if you follow this, you might not have to go to any other blog or any other vendor website. Believe me on that.
Right. And Anup is there. Anup is saying yes. So I think you have understood this question right, Akshay.
So I spoke like 2 3 things, so I don't know what it. Okay, so let me explain this in the way that, so so what I'm sensing is that he's saying that there is an IPS in place and it is generating some logs. And so what is the events of interest is so Anup, we have to understand that first of all, IPS will log what level of logging have you enabled in an IPS. That is important. If you're logging each and every traffic, then that's another story. But let's say for our discussion sake, because we want to analyze the actual malicious traffic, so what did it block? The first important thing is what was blocked, right? So if only IPS is in scope, if you're talking about IPS from an incident response standpoint, I'll have a different answer for you. But if only you're talking is, so in the events that are generated in the IPS are of importance. The events to say what type of attack, malicious activity, that depends from vendor to vendor. But that is to say that in an IPS, you're basically looking for what action. One approach could be an action based approach, wherein the first thing you will do is you will check which attacks were stopped, which, so I don't know what each and, okay, so let's talk about each and every traffic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, let's consider the whole log. You have the whole raw log and you have enabled complete logging of each and everything that is passing, right? So in this case, what we are saying is, what are the type, see, what is the output you are expecting from an IPS? You are expecting to analyze whether it is blocking the right type of action or not, right? type of malicious activity or not. So you're looking at the first is what it is stopping. In that, you have to look at the source address. You have to look at what ports were used. You have to look at what service was being targeted, what specific exe or executable was involved, which Windows service. So different types of attacks. So there's no quick way of explaining this, but just to say that you have to analyze what traffic was blocked, all the red alerts, and in that you have to say, you have to understand what was the source, what was the destination, what port was used, what service was used, what executable was employed. So that comes as a part of your log monitoring and analysis, whether your
Great.
performance, and there's a deeper sense of whether an attack actually happened or not. If you're doing it as a part of incident response, to say if you're checking the effectiveness of your IPS, is it like a simulation activity, is it an like actual attack, what type of attack is it was, comes into a deeper sense. But from a monitoring perspective, if you have to start, look at the type of traffic that was blocked, look at the criticality of the attack, look at the assets that were targeted, look at so on the basis of whether it was one target, whether it was couple of targets. So how you are relating is from a timeline, and look from a timeline perspective how it started. So let's say you get an alert from an SIM that says that there was a potential DOS in progress, or there was a potential malware execution in progress in your IPS. Essentially what you're looking at is from this timeline to this timeline, what are the events that were generated, and that is how you will be able to know
Relate them.
what
Yeah.
was the first point, how did he
Right.
enter, did he go from here to here, and just try to create a chain of events and come up with a better analysis as to what type of attack there was. So I
Right.
hope that answers.
Yeah. Avir is thanking us. He's saying that he got the answer. I have another member now, NSCH. So I think this member wants to know what is the cyber threat intelligence and what are the main and important sources of cyber threat intelligence. Shall we do a separate
People are
video for
active
this?
today. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'll take this up. So basically, I don't know the name. This person has not mentioned the name. So to whoever is asking, cyber threat intelligence is basically your capacity to have, how should I put this? To have the knowledge against the types of attacks that are out there. So threat intelligence is what we call it. It's also called cyber threat intelligence. And essentially what you're saying is whatever types of attacks that are out there, I have a platform within my organization that has the capability, the intelligence to know the different types of attacks and what are the indicators of these types of attacks. So a concept, and when you implement threat intelligence inside an organization, it converts into what we call as a threat intelligence platform. And what you're asking is what are important sources is basically the threat feed which you're talking about. So if you want to know more about the different types of sources, you might want to look at the concept of indicator of compromise, which is an IOC. So try searching for threat intelligence IOC over the internet. There are open source, there are free available threat feeds for IOCs. IOC bucket is one of them. There is a standard of open IOC which defines, there is a standard way in which an indicator of compromise is structured, is shown, is to be shared. Sticks, taxi, a lot of things come into picture here. But yeah, the open IOC bucket would be a good start for you. Try searching for other sources. There are a lot out there. If you're looking at it from a professional angle, from an organizational angle, there are paid threat feeds with from really good vendors, SMEs who have their inbuilt malware analysis and threat intelligence team, and they provide you threat feeds on subscription basis. They have some commercials for it. I'm not the best person to talk about that, but from an organizational level, you could get paid threat feeds as well. At an educational, at a researcher, or at an academic level, you might want to look at the open source alternatives for threat feeds as well, and there are a lot. So when I say threat feed, malware analysis dumps, IOCs, IOC bucket, all of these become like a good source. Virus Total is a good source for threat intelligence as well. So you might want to
Great.
check those out.
Great, Akshay. Akshay, Anoop has come back. He's saying thanks. I think he's got the concept that you were trying to explain to him. So I'm happy for Anoop. Lalit Shekhawat, one of our returning members on the live stream. Welcome, Lalit, to the stream again. Thank you for watching the stream every day. He's asking for best practices or checks for vendor risk management.
Oh, so people are coming up with heavy topics, huh? I was
Yeah, but
expecting.
don't delve into them too much. Otherwise, we will deviate from what we wanted to discuss today, Akshay. And I think we have already deviated too much because we are off the track now. But anyways, we have to
Completely,
answer.
yeah. No, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
answer
which is
it.
fine.
So,
Yeah,
so Lalit, at a very basic level, when we're talking about vendor risk management, we are talking about how you are providing access to the vendor. What types of resources are you providing as an access to the vendor? That is one point. How you are implementing access control to the vendor. It is also talking about how your contracts are signed with the vendors, the code of conduct, the acceptable usage policy, the non-disclosure agreement, the MOU, the AOU that you sign with the vendor, the contract, the SLAs, the penalties, the misuse of resources, the revealing of information. So all these clauses come into your vendor risk management. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much from a very basic standpoint. And
great.
I don't know if there's
Great,
something, Love,
Akshay.
you want to add, maybe
No,
you
no,
can.
which is fine, which is fine. You have addressed most of the points. It's more related to SLAs and terms only, which you have rightly mentioned. Okay.
Right.
Shivkant is returning now. He has returned with a very clever question this time, Akshay. He's asking if we have IPS logs, if we have firewall logs, if we have server logs, then why do we need SIEM tools for network monitoring?
So Shivkant, you have to understand that SIM in itself is nothing. SIM is just a platform who it's like an expert system that is ultimately consuming the logs of IPS, firewall, and servers, and basis on the alerts that you have configured, it is giving you a centralized way of alerting and showing you the results. That's all what that SIM is. It's essentially just continuously checking these logs, and
It's
because
just a
these
bridge. It's just a bridge.
yeah,
Yeah.
because these IPS firewalls and servers work in silo. You want, as a central person, you want to consume all of them, and you want to potentially check whether different things are giving you an indication of an attack or not. So if you have if you have some other analytics, if you have an analytics platform that is combining and talking to all three and is telling you an error, giving you an indication of an attack, then you don't need an SIM. But then I would say that you have essentially created an SIM in itself, because that is the definition of an SIM, right? So it's the SIM is not for network monitoring. SIM is specifically for security, incident information, and event monitoring. So it's only specific for security events, and it has complex analytics and correlation abilities that a firewall and an IPS might not have. IPS might typically just be on anomaly or signature based, and firewall is might heavily be rule based. And server in itself is just implementing, just recording events. So you want a complex correlation engine at a place where who's able to extract information and then make sense of three separate log sources combined. That is why you need an SI.
Thank you, Akshay. Great. I think this session has become more of a Q&A session today rather than a interview discussion session. So since we are already approaching an hour, I would like you to have some concluding notes, and I think we will do a series of this kind of
Yeah,
videos.
because I had thought about manager and senior manager
Yeah, I
level
think,
as well, but I
yeah,
guess we don't have that much time, and let's do it in
we can't,
second part.
yeah, we can't fit them today.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's great that people are asking questions. I mean, that's a good thing in itself that people have some specific questions. So what I have said till now, we kind of started with the L2, L3, but for L0, L1 level, you need to have your basics nailed down. And the expectation that people have from you at a base fresher level is also a little bit of practical knowledge. I'm not saying industry experience, I'm saying practical knowledge. So the ability to be able to perform a scan, the ability to be able to from even from a risk perspective to understand what a risk is, uh, like what L1 was, the L1 level expectation was 5 years ago is what at L0 level expectation is. So you need to either buckle up, study hard, work hard, do your own setup, or you need to get into something very specific, some sort of training or some guidance, which because the competition is severe. And like I said, the level of knowledge. So when you start at an L0 or at L1 level, the plate is bigger, and when you keep moving from L2, L3 to O, it becomes very specific job role based on the specific problems that people have. uh, L0 and L1 level are profiles are usually not created to fill a gap or solve a problem. L2 and L3 positions are mostly created to fill a gap or solve a problem, and it becomes more specific as we grow. So when you're being asked at an L2 or an L3 level, they might ask you questions based on some problems they are already facing in their organization. Maybe they are facing a PCI audit, maybe they were once under an attack and they could not analyze it efficiently. Maybe they were not able to identify vulnerabilities in their previous vulnerability assessment program. So they will ask you some specific questions other than the experience and the knowledge you already have. So look out for more specific direct questions in L0, L1 level. Also scenario based questions, like I said, look out for more scenario based questions at L2, L3 level, and specific questions related to standards at an L2 and L3 level. If you're into risk management, nail down specific standards like PCI, ISO, GDPR, HIPAA, whatever you want. It depends on the type of role that there is out there, and also risk management in general from a process perspective. And also attack, if you're into a blue team, understanding of attacks, understanding of how SIM works, understanding of event analysis, and the understanding of incident response is kind of expected out of it. Let's do more detailed on it, because I don't think we did enough justice to the L2 and L3. We just started and kind of was dived into answering the question. So let's pick up where we left off today, and do the L2, L3, and the manager and the senior manager. With the type of questions we have, I think we'll only be able to cover the L2 and L3 in the next one, but then maybe we do a third one. It's just on you folks.
Yeah. Thank you, Akshay. Thank you. So many questions, and so much to learn in 1 hour. So I'm amazed with the time that we have and the type of questions that we have. Akshay, just wanted to point out one thing here, which is very important for all the freshers who are out there. If you are struggling to enter into this information security or cyber security domain, Akshay has a great course for it. Just get in touch and try to understand the parts that they are covering in those courses, the kind of plethora of the what can I say, the items which they have in their courseware in that program is so much that you won't, I think, actually they don't have to even google anything for that, right?
Oh, they'll come out as champions, man. That's
Yeah.
what we do. We create champions.
Yeah, so he has already placed, I don't want to name the big fours here, but he has placed a lot of people in the big MNCs. So I do not want to name because they are his clients, but just
Let's just say that once
yeah,
somebody takes that program, cracking an interview will not be a problem for them.
absolutely. Yeah, I would agree.
Let's just say that
Yeah.
any and every interview that comes their way, they'll be able to crack it.
Absolutely,
Uh,
Akshay. Actually, only one thing I had, because this is a kind of debate that I don't know how, but I just got it recalled today after listening to so many questions and so much of enthusiasm. Somewhere down the line, you mentioned that for freshers, they need to have a knowledge of each and everything because they are actually entering the industry now. So while I was at a fresher level, I had this debate with one of the lab admins who was managing the labs. We had 21 labs in that MNC. I do not want to mention it here, but he was a guy who was single-handedly maintaining 21 labs, and I think the infra was actually huge. And the guy was having, I think, more than 30 plus years of experience. So we came on a kind of a debate that day. So I also had the same sense because I was joining the industry. So as a fresher, I had the same feeling like I need to be in all the verticals. But he
Yes,
told me that day that in order to specialize, you have to get into one stream. So this is very important, and I think this is a core challenge for a lot of the people, including me. I would be completely honest there because it takes a lot of time to understand what is your core specialization theme and how to choose one. If you can answer this in a couple of minutes, I think a lot of people will actually bless you for this particular answer.
okay. Uh, okay, so let me try to give
But
a
it
go
is
at
tough.
this.
It is tough, yeah, because everyone has
Yeah.
the different.
So at a starter level, you have to understand what excites you more. You have to understand what excites you more. You have to understand whether risk and compliance makes more sense to you, whether audit is something you like. So you have to see, even in a technical. So what happens is, love, that we look at hacking, we look at the blogs, and we feel like this is something that might excite me. But is this the right fit for you? Do you understand? If are you able to make sense of what common vulnerabilities are? Are you able to make sense? Does the concept of port scanning, does the concept of ARP poisoning, does the concept of DNS attract you, interest you? Do you like, if I am explaining to you the architecture of DNS, are you the person who will be listening to me, or are you the person who will immediately switch to their mobile phone? You have to understand. You have to, what excites you is what is going to drive you,
Great, yeah, got it.
right?
What
So
piques
if
your
I'm
interest?
if
Yeah,
I look at ISO and I'm loving the audit concept of it, I'm like this person who identify. Yes, exactly. So yeah, you have
yeah,
that frame of mind, love. You
yeah,
understand everything from a risk perspective, and that is why you're an expert on this, right? It's not just the standard. It's because you had that frame of mind, and somehow you found this standard, and you were naturally able to master it, much
yes,
not like a lot of people. And that is to say that you found your calling because you understood this, because this made
yes,
sense to you, right?
right.
That's the key over here. And that is why I say, and it's okay to be confused. See, it's okay to be confused. That is why I say, build up a good foundation, and in the first year or second year itself, you will get to know what you want to do more. That is why, love, and I'm again not for shameless promotion, that is why in the CIRP course what we're talking about is a gamut of profiles: network security, incident responder, server security, SOC person, so that you get a taste of everything, and through the course itself you realize what's important for you. So that was our attempt for this. And also, if you even join as a vulnerability assessment guy in the first year, nothing is stopping you from moving into process later on. Nothing is stopping you from moving into ISMS later on. And if you start with a SOC, nothing is stopping you from getting into the defense red team aspect of it. But get somewhere, start somewhere, and the more clarity you have before you start, the better job profiles you will target. But not
Absolutely.
to say that if you're not able to target it, there's anything wrong. It's not like the first year, if you do something for the rest of your life, you're going to do that. No, that's not true. We have time to figure things out. People keep
Right,
switching left, right, and center. So
right.
just, I mean, and people think a lot. I
Yeah,
think they should focus
yeah,
more on preparation and
yeah.
focus more on increasing their skills rather than getting tense and thinking too much about other nuances.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree, Akshay. Great. So a lot of people are thanking now. Lalit Shekhawat is thanking. Shivkant Sharma is thanking us. Muzaffar Uddin is also thanking. He's saying, great session, nice session. Now, Harpreet Thekedar is there. Again, a returning member of the community. I have seen him before as well. Thank you, Harpreet, for becoming a part of the community now. So he's asking, can you take the session for troubleshooting in advance? Any Wireshark lectures?
Okay, so Harpreet, are we talking about analyzing traffic through Wireshark from a security perspective? Is
Yeah, I
that is
think he
that what
wants to
you're asking?
do that. Yeah, yeah. I think because
Yeah,
he
we could
wants
do
to
that. We
understand how
could
it
we could
works.
do anything,
Yeah,
Harpreet.
packet sniffing and all. Yeah, yeah,
We can do anything. We can talk about. We can discuss malware analysis. We can discuss Wireshark based analysis. We can.
See, Akshay, I told you last 5 minutes were very valuable. See, you understand the type of challenge that people have with the specialization thing because this is personally I have realized this. This is why I asked you that question because that is where most of the people are getting stuck these days.
People should ask more questions, love. This
Yeah,
forum, ask as much question. I mean, if you're confused, and if you're uh, try to approach, if you're shy, see, it's not going to help you. It's a problem. Just get the problem solved. Just clear
Yeah.
your head. That's the key. And nobody's judging anybody, man. It's that those days are over. At least there are people like Love who are extending their hands of help to everybody. He has created so many job groups on Facebook, on WhatsApp. If you're looking, if you're shy on asking publicly on YouTube, I would say put in some efforts and try to find this guy on Facebook and WhatsApp. Try to reach to me. It's not that difficult. It's not. It's not like he's created a covert channel or something. People are there. Are he's managing 4, 5, 6 groups, 700, 800. I don't know. I don't even know how many people he's managing, and people
More
keep
than a
asking
couple
him.
of
And
thousand. More than a couple of
yeah,
thousand.
right. Yeah. So
And
he said
more
he
than
said it himself.
8,000 in Facebook.
And one thing, folks, I know a lot of people might be thinking that now these people are just ranting, but I want to say that in Love's groups, all questions are answered. Even if it is something that, sir, I have a confusion, I have a doubt, I'm not sure whether SOC is better for me or network security is better for me. Should I get into ISMS? Two specific questions like how these clauses are working, all of these things are answered. And it's not just Love or me who are answering these questions. There are experts out there.
Yeah.
There are people,
Shivkant is
and
there. A lot
yeah,
of
people
people are
like
there.
Sivkant
Yeah.
and all of these people they're already
Yeah.
experienced
Tremendous.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a whole community that is working. So I don't know. I mean, just try to
I don't.
reach them.
Yeah. Just to add there, Akshay, I don't want to mention people from big MNCs are also there in those groups, which are actually working from past more than 20 years of experience. People are there and they are helping people. So it's a great
Yes.
community, guys. We welcome you with full hands. Just try to join, as Akshay mentioned. Don't feel shy and be a part of this community.
Yeah,
And try
just
to,
and keep asking questions. I mean, if you just post a comment, we'll somehow address everything, and then we always
yeah.
find something like somebody said that there's a Wireshark troubleshooting, security based troubleshooting. Now it's in our heads. Now it's in our uh,
No, so he's saying he needs it for L3 job.
Yes, that is true, and it's a very practical thing, my friend. And even though I saw, what I could teach you is I could probably tell you how to operate Wireshark and do troubleshooting and take a couple of use cases. But this is a very specific thing, huh?
It is very
So
specific. I was about
and
to say it will need a lot of
it's
bananas.
highly
Yeah,
technical.
yeah.
But yeah, we can touch base on the basics of Wireshark. Why not, Love? I mean, I think it's an
Sure,
interesting
sure,
topic.
sure.
So
Absolutely.
we'll come up with something, Harpreet. Just watch
Yeah,
out. Keep yourself subscribed.
sure. After that, Shivkant brother is also saying that we need to create a video on information security guidelines, NIST 853. Great, Shivkant. Sure. And that person who you answered, that question, he's actually happy. I don't know the name, but he's saying that well said. So I think he's got the answer now. So great session. Actually, I'm overwhelmed with the kind of questions that we had, with the kind of people and the kind of engagement that we had. This is what we were aiming for, guys, when we started. I think 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, when we started this live stream. This is the amount of engagement we wanted, and I'm really glad and happy, thankful to God and actually Akshay, to take out his time and actually make this happen at this level. So we want all of you to be here, a part of this community. Join us every day. It's like 11 p.m. and I still see 8 people on the stream, which is a great thing in itself. So yeah.
And for the people who are waiting right now, a good tidbit here is that Love and I were, it was always in our plan to kind of think about launching like in parallel to the types of videos we are making, and we're still in the thinking phase to make like a series, like a job specific series out of it, where at least once a week or once every 2 weeks we launch like in a continuation, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that there's a whole series which is talking about the temperament, which is talking about the topic, which is talking about specific question and answers. We're still in the process of outlining this, or whether people actually want it or not. So if you do want something like this, spread Love's channel, comment on this video to say yes, you do want something like this, because if we don't get a lot of traction, then we won't be motivated enough to do it. It's
Yeah,
that simple.
absolutely.
It's that simple.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we get a lot of subscribers over the coming week, if we get a lot of comments, if people are liking these videos in specific, then obviously we are in the process, and then we'll be more motivated to make something very specific to just the job scenario in cybersecurity. And
Great.
believe me, we have good content to offer. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that must be really clear by now.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Don't even think that a guy like Akshay, who is the founder of a company, will waste even a single minute on these calls. So just be there. So that is, of course, the point of value there. Thank you so much, Akshay, for your time. I can still see 10 people on the live stream. I do not want to go, but the time is not allowing us. I'm really sorry, guys. I have to leave the live stream now, and Akshay also has to catch up with a lot of things. But thank you so much for. A lot of questions are still coming up. We have Ravi Rokade who is asking, can we have ISO 27001 implementation practical approach with case studies? Why not, Ravi? I would be glad to do that. I would be glad to take an 8-hour bootcamp on that particular thing which you are talking about. But the only thing is we need to plan it, Ravi. But sure, why not? So thank you for throwing out these suggestions. That's why we are saying, that's why Akshay is saying, if you need something, keep it at us, so that we know that this is coming out from your side, and then we will address it. Of course, why not?
All the questions, all the contents, all the videos that are made are the based out of the suggestions or the queries that people have asked. This is not a content generated by our own ideas. This is whatever suggestions and whatever queries we are getting over time. So the more you ask on a topic, the more people get involved on a certain domain, the more we will focus on it, because all of this is for you folks. I mean, we are not. This is more. The whole point is for people who are watching this to benefit out of it.
Right, absolutely. Great, Akshay. I think really great session. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, please stay safe, take care of yourself and your family. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Akshay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.